Hello there, Jeremy Weiss here with Weiss Tech Hockey. And today I wanted to share with you something that's going to give you a huge advantage over your opponents. In fact, this is something that's almost never talked about, almost never thought about. In fact, I learned about it as I was going through college as an exercise science major. And when I saw this stuff and then realized how it could be applied to hockey, it absolutely blew me away, and I think you're going to love this. So what I'm talking about here is energy systems and what energy systems your body uses for hockey and how that can be applied in a workout training program. So what we'll probably do here is break this video into two parts. So the first part we'll talk about the actual energy systems, what they do, how they work, and then the second part we'll talk about how we're going to actually implement this into our training program. So let's jump straight in. I've got a little diagram here that we made, and I'm admittedly a little bit of a geek when it comes to this kind of thing. Anytime I can figure out how to gain an advantage over my opponent, I'm all about that. So some of this might get a little bit technical, but I think for the most part it's pretty straightforward. So what we've got here is a little diagram showing the three main energy systems that are used in athletics. Some of these you may have already heard of. We're going to just kind of go through them really quickly, and then I'll show you how some of this stuff can be applied into your game situations. So the first system we'll talk about here is the aerobic system. That's everybody's heard of aerobics. It's low intensity, long duration. It's a very efficient system as far as energy output versus energy intake. So you can go for a long time and very efficiently, but obviously it's not very explosive. So the aerobic system is not used a lot in hockey, but what it does do is help your anaerobic systems to recover more quickly. So it's still very important, but you got to train it correctly for it to benefit you as a hockey player. Let's go on. We'll hide this one and move up to anaerobic glycolysis. This one is used more often in hockey. This is your high intensity mid duration type of exercise. So anything where you're going full speed for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, that's going to be jumping into that anaerobic glycolysis system. It uses muscle glycogen as fuel. It produces lactic acid. What lactic acid does, that's what starts making your muscles tighten up. That's what starts making you throw up when you're doing your ladder drills. When your body can't eliminate the lactic acid faster than you're producing it, it starts causing inefficiencies in your body. It starts making you ineffective as a player. So lactic acid is not a good thing, which means anytime you're going to be using this system, you better be doing very worthwhile work. So it's got to be worth the cost of producing that lactic acid. It's also got a 15 to 25 minute half-life, which means it takes between 15 and 25 minutes for half of your energy stores to become recovered after you've depleted your anaerobic glycolysis system. So long half-life there. Not a great system to abuse, but there is definitely, you definitely need to use it in hockey. And then we'll go with the ATP phosphocreatine system. And this is the one that's most commonly used in hockey. Obviously, it's your short explosive bursts. It's got a 20 to 30 second half-life for recovery. So once you've depleted that system, it takes between 20 and 30 seconds for half of that system to become recovered. Let me slide this over a little bit. There are supplements that can help this system to work more efficiently. Creatine supplements. They promote phosphocreatine and ATP resynthesis during anaerobic work, which is a good thing. They enhance anaerobic performance, and also it allows the athlete to train longer at higher intensities without fatigue. So obviously you can see some major benefits in hockey by using those supplements. So what we're going to do here is we'll start bouncing around just a tiny bit, but there's a couple things I want to show you. Really quick pop quiz. Which two energy systems do you think are the most used in hockey? You probably guessed right. First and foremost, ATP phosphocreatine system, and then secondly is glycolysis. Aerobic conditioning aerobic energy system is almost not used in hockey games. Doesn't mean we don't need to train it, but it's not used very often in a hockey game setting. I mean, you're not going to go out there for a 5-minute shift or a 20-minute shift going half speed. It just doesn't happen in hockey. So here's a page out of one of my textbooks. This one I thought was really interesting. In fact, that's probably why I highlighted it. We've got different sports, different activities, and which energy systems are used in those activities and sports. So here we've got highlighted. We've got hockey, ice hockey, and you can see that forwards and defensemen use about 80% of the energy is being used from the ATP phosphocreatine system. Only 20% comes from glycolysis. That's the anaerobic glycolysis, and we've got virtually nothing coming from aerobic energy system. So really, hockey's really important on these two, and we'll in part 2 we'll show you how to train for that. Goalies are even more extreme: 95% ATP phosphocreatine and about 5% glycolysis. And other than that, there's just no aerobic conditioning. So so when parents come up to me and tell me how dedicated Johnny is and how he's running 5 miles a day, it's great. He is dedicated, but he's dedicated training the wrong way. So that's definitely what we'll talk about in part 2. The other thing I wanted to show you guys that I thought was really interesting, and some stuff that you can definitely start using now, especially as coaches, is these HalfLife replenishment of your phosphagen stores. So this is for your ATP phosphocreatine system. Like we said before, it's a 20 to 30 second half-life. So here's your 20-second column. These are for the faster recoveries. Here's your 30-second column. This is for the guys that take a little bit longer. But I've highlighted two areas here. One is the 120 seconds, that's 2 minutes, and one is the 3-minute mark. And the reason why I highlighted those is because during kind of a regular shift, if you're running through 3 lines, then generally you're on the ice for about a minute and then off the ice for 2. So during that 2 minutes, you can see that you're recovering about 98% of your ATP phosphocreatine system during that rest, which is a good thing. If you're running 4 lines, you get a little bit more recovery, 99.8% recovery during that 3-minute rest in between your shifts. So definitely something to consider there as you're running your lines. Something to consider even more so is this next chart. And again, this is taken directly from one of my textbooks. Removal of lactic acid. So this is where I'm saying the anaerobic glycolysis system, you got to be careful with how you're using that, because it's got a 15 to 25 minute half-life, which means after 15 minutes, if you've depleted this system, you're only about 50% recovered, meaning you've only removed about 50% of the lactic acid that's accumulating in your muscles, which is not a good thing. So think about the average length of a shift, right? Generally, we always hear short shifts, 45-second shifts, 30-second shifts. Well, whether the coach knows it or not, there's a reason for that. Because as soon as you start getting into that 30-second to 2-minute mark, well, now you're not using your ATP phosphocreatine system as much anymore. You're using your anaerobic glycolysis, which is producing lactic acid. So as you start getting into longer shifts, your recovery time is breaking into that lactic acid removal phase and taking you longer and longer and longer to recover between shifts. And it's a negative snowball effect. So so that's definitely something, when I saw this, it was kind of an eye-opener for me. Like, man, the importance of short shifts is really actually a big deal. So teach your kids, get out there, short shifts, short bursts, explosive bursts of speed, make the most out of every single shift, then get off the ice and get your rest. So that's the basic overview of the energy systems. In part 2 here, we're going to show you how to apply some of these little tidbits of information in your workout program.